There was a little mix-up with the seating, but you'll be more comfortable back here, the girl whispered, smiling like she was doing me a favor. I looked around. Folding chair. Near the swinging kitchen door. No tablecloth, no place card. Just a thin paper napkin folded over the seat like a half-hearted apology. I stood there a moment, not sure whether to sit or turn around and leave. The room behind the reception hall smelled like garlic and fryer oil. Steam billowed out each time the kitchen door swung open. I could hear the band warming up. Someone clinked a glass for a toast. My dress, soft mauve hand-stitched, suddenly felt foolish. I'd spent all morning at the salon. 3 hours of curling, pinning, powdering. I'd told myself today would be special. Not just for Elias, for me too. I believed that. Then I saw him. Through the gap in the door, Elias stood laughing beside his bride's mother, his arm draped casually around her shoulders like she was the one who'd sat beside his hospital bed during asthma attacks. She kissed his cheek. He smiled. That wide, proud smile I hadn't seen since he graduated college. He never looked toward the kitchen. No one did. I sat down slowly, heels clicking on the concrete. The chair wobbled slightly. I smoothed my dress and folded my hands in my lap. My fingers were shaking. The catering staff rushed past me, trays in hand, ignoring the woman in the corner who had paid for their uniforms, their tips, their long night. A busboy dropped a plate in front of me, cold chicken breast, no explanation. I stared at it. I thought of the open bar I'd upgraded last minute. The gold chargers, the 5-tier cake with raspberry filling. Her favorite, not mine. The music swelled. I caught another glimpse through the swinging door, Elias and Emily gliding across the floor. First dance. He didn't even glance my way. I pressed the napkin to my mouth and smiled like I wasn't breaking, like I hadn't already started to leave. When Elias proposed, I told him I'd take care of the wedding. Not out of pride, out of habit. I'd always filled the gaps, stitched the missing pieces, made things possible. It wasn't even a question. I opened a new spreadsheet that same week, broke down every line item, catering, venue, flowers, band, dress. Each dollar carefully calculated between Social Security checks and the modest pension I'd earned from 32 years at the hospital. When the venue changed twice, I absorbed the difference. When Emily said the community center felt a bit too basic, I called the restored barn with the chandeliers. I remember her exact words when we toured it. Now this feels elevated. Elevated came with a price tag. I sold my dining set, downsized my condo, rented out the guest room, skipped my annual checkup and told myself the dizziness was just stress. Every time I hesitated, I thought of Elias, of that tiny boy with the crooked front teeth who once begged me for dance lessons because he wanted to impress a girl in 2nd grade. I wanted this wedding to be his first big win. No one offered to split the cost. Not Elias. Not the bride's family. Her father shook my hand, once called me a generous soul. Her mother smiled tight and asked if the chargers could be gold instead of silver. And I said yes. To everything. The dress-fitting custom silk. The floral arch imported peonies. The monogrammed welcome bags. The signature cocktails. Emily never said thank you. She just sent me updates like I was an assistant. Here's the final head count. We're adding a late-night snack table, super casual. I found a veil I love, can you call the boutique and handle payment? And I did. Because I thought showing up with love would be enough. That maybe at the end of it all, I'd still have a place in the story I helped build. I thought they'd see me. But as the next tray of crab cakes passed me in the kitchen, I realized they had already looked past me entirely. I unfolded the program, slowly smoothing the heavy cardstock in my lap. Cream-colored, thick, embossed with looping cursive. Elias and Emily. September 9th. I scanned the list of names. Her parents were mentioned in full, Margot and Dennis Halberd, with thanks for raising a woman full of grace. The speech schedule was listed underneath. Her mother would give the opening toast. Her father would close the night. A bridesmaid would share a memory from college. Elias's best man had a whole section. There was no mention of me. Not a word. Not a title. Not a "with love" from the groom's family. I blinked down at the paper like maybe the ink would rearrange itself. That somehow I had missed it, but I hadn't. I was erased elegantly. A waiter passed by and paused when he saw me still sitting in the corner. He looked barely 20, trying not to meet my eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said, voice low. "I think they said you were supposed to stay here because of the photos." "The photos?" He winced. "They didn't want anything that clashed. Visually." He gestured awkwardly toward my dress, then looked away. I said nothing. He disappeared just as fast as he'd come. The kitchen door swung open again. Laughter and music flooded through. I caught the tail end of a speech Emily's mother standing at the head table with a glass of champagne. "I raised him like my own," she said sweetly. "Truly, it's like he's been a part of our family forever." We couldn't be prouder. The room clapped. I stared at the silver edge of the door as it swung shut again. She hadn't raised him. She hadn't held him through fevered nights or gone without to afford piano lessons. She hadn't dug quarters out of the couch to buy poster board for his science project. That woman had met him as a full-grown man, and now she stood in the light I was kept from. The chair beneath me creaked as I shifted. I folded the program in half and placed it under my plate. They had cut me out clean. I hadn't realized yet that I was about to return the favor. A small plate appeared in front of me, plastic flimsy with a gold fork balanced on the edge. On it sat a perfect slice of cake. 5 layers white sponge with raspberry filling between each tier, topped with sugared petals and a dusting of edible gold. I didn't touch it. I've never liked raspberry. It's too tart, too thin. It always left a sour trace I couldn't rinse from my mouth. But it was Emily's favorite. She'd mentioned it 3 times during the tasting. "It's elegant," she'd said, "not too sweet, very modern." Elias had nodded, distracted, scrolling through something on his phone. They never asked me what I liked. I stared at the cake until the frosting began to melt under the kitchen heat. My fingers stayed in my lap, motionless. I remembered Elias at 10 years old. He'd begged for a chocolate cake with rainbow sprinkles for his birthday. He had pointed it out in a bakery window, his little face pressed to the glass. It cost more than I made in 2 days. So I picked up 2 extra night shifts at the hospital. Came home, shoes soaked from the rain, arms aching, but holding that cake like it was a crown. He had hugged me so hard that day. He got frosting on his chin and asked for a second slice before we'd even finished the first. That boy would have noticed where I was sitting. That boy wouldn't have let me eat in the shadows while strangers toasted the people who'd barely known him. I picked up the fork, pressed it gently against the side of the cake. It slid through with no resistance. I lifted a bite to my lips but didn't eat it. The scent of raspberry hit first sweet chemical wrong. I set the fork down. I wasn't hungry. The music in the next room swelled again. The crowd laughed on cue. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and opened the spreadsheet. Not to check the budget, to start erasing them from it. The band shifted into another slow song. I recognized the tune Elias had danced to it in the living room when he was 5 feet on top of mine, giggling with each sway. But now he was twirling Emily across the polished floor, lit by chandeliers I paid for beneath a custom neon sign I never approved. There was no mother-son dance. I wasn't surprised. They'd cut that 2 weeks ago. "It's a little outdated," Emily had said. And honestly, Elias gets uncomfortable with too much attention on him. But he didn't look uncomfortable now. He looked happy, comfortable, complete, without me. My hands had been trembling for hours, subtle at first, a quiet hum beneath my skin. But now, they were still. I opened my handbag and pulled out my phone. The screen glowed against the dim kitchen light. I scrolled through contacts until I saw them. Florist, morning brunch delivery. I tapped. The line rang once. Hi, this is Margaret Langley. Yes, for tomorrow's brunch, cancel the delivery. No reschedule. Just cancel it outright. Thank you. Click. Band, evening set. Hi, change of plans. We won't need the second performance tonight. No, everything's fine. Please consider the balance voided. Thank you for your time. Click. Bar manager, midnight service. Hi, I'm calling to close out the open bar. Effective immediately. Please stop all pours after the current tab. Yes, I understand there's a deposit. No further charges. Thank you. Click. 3 calls. 3 cuts. No raised voice. No trembling hands. Just calm, deliberate movement. They hadn't noticed me sitting by the kitchen. Not once. Let's see if they noticed when the flowers didn't arrive tomorrow. Let's see if they noticed when the band packed up halfway through the night. Let's see if they noticed when the bar ran dry before the bouquet toss. I tucked my phone back in my bag, folded the napkin on my lap, and sat up straighter. For the first time all day, I didn't feel erased. I felt ready. Back at the house, I didn't even take off my dress. I sat on the edge of the bed, the fitted bodice creasing stiffly against my ribs, the zipper tugging just slightly at the skin on my back. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel much of anything. The lamp on the nightstand cast a soft glow across the room. I reached for my tablet and opened my banking app. Habit. Maybe control. I needed to see something that made sense. Columns, numbers, structure. The wedding spreadsheet sat open on another tab. Everything documented. Every deposit. Every revised invoice. Every last-minute upgrade. The total amount made my breath catch even though I already knew it. And then 2 charges I didn't recognize. One from the restaurant where they'd held the rehearsal dinner, a venue upgrade fee. The other, a spa package. 8 guests. 1 day before the wedding. I blinked hard. The card number matched mine. The date was recent. The authorization missing. I checked again. And again. Still mine. Still there. Still unpaid. I flipped over to Venmo, trying to track the transaction trail. That's when I saw it public, foolishly, proudly public. Emily's name. A payment to one of her bridesmaids with a note that said, "His mom is footing everything, might as well go big." Wedding vibes. I stared at it for a long time. My name wasn't even mentioned. Just a role. A faceless sponsor. I didn't know what hurt more, that they used me or that they never even bothered to hide it. Not a whisper of guilt. Not even the courtesy of a lie. The tablet sat on my lap like it weighed 100 pounds. I closed the app slowly, my hands still calm. Not shaking. Not anymore. Because now I knew exactly where I stood. Not family. Not honored. Not even included. Just the wallet. And I had just closed it. I don't remember standing up. One moment I was staring at the screen, the next I was walking through the dark room, the soft carpet muffling every step, like I didn't belong to the world anymore. Something pulled me to the drawer in the back of my closet, the one I never touched, where I kept old insurance papers. Expired documents. Things I should have shredded long ago. But at the bottom, tucked into a red folder so worn, the edges curled like paper leaves, was a letter. The envelope was faded, yellowed at the corners. My name in Michael's handwriting. My late husband. I'd seen it before. Years ago, when I was still too raw to open anything he left behind. I'd tucked it away, telling myself it could wait. But tonight it didn't feel like it could. I sat on the bed, peeled the flap open, and unfolded the paper. His handwriting shaky but familiar. Margaret. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And there's something I should have told you long ago. Elias isn't my biological son. When we first met, you believed as I let you believe that he was my child from a previous relationship, that I had raised him on my own, but that wasn't the truth. His mother, her name was Emily too, though not the one you know was someone I cared about years before I met you. We were close, but not for long. After we parted ways, she reappeared with a baby in her arms. Elias. She said he wasn't mine. He was from someone else. She didn't want him. She asked me to take care of him temporarily, then vanished. I was supposed to give him up for adoption, but I couldn't. I looked at him, wide eyes, quiet cry, and something in me couldn't let him go. So I kept him. I raised him. I told the world he was mine. And when you and I married, I let you believe the same. I didn't lie to hurt you. I lied because I knew the kind of woman you were. I knew that if you thought he was a part of me, you'd love him with your whole heart. And you did. You gave that boy everything. You made him your world. You worked night shifts, skipped vacations, stretched paychecks. You sat by his bed when he was sick, clapped the loudest at every school play. Stayed strong when I couldn't. I never told you the truth because I didn't want it to change what we had, what you gave him, what he became because of you. But now that I'm gone, you deserve to know Elias is your son, not by blood, but by every act of love you ever gave. And none of this changes what's real. You were and always will be his mother. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner. Michael, I didn't cry. Not even a little. I just sat there, holding the weight of a truth that should have destroyed me. But it didn't, because I had raised that boy, and now I understood why he never saw me. He was never mine, but I had been his. The next morning, I took every wedding photo down. Every frame that held Elias's face, smiling in tuxedos, holding champagne, standing beside a woman who wrote me out with a pen and a camera. I didn't smash them. I didn't cry. I wrapped each one gently in towels, placed them in a cardboard box, and labeled it, "Memories, not obligations." The silence in the house felt different now. It wasn't hollow. It was open, clean. I opened my pantry and refrigerator, took stock, and made a list. Then I went shopping. Not for anyone else, no requests, no allergies, no picky preferences to cater to. Just basil, garlic, a wedge of real Parmesan, and tomatoes that still smelled like a garden. I made lemon butter pasta with roasted garlic and cherry tomatoes, my favorite. I'd seen the recipe once years ago on a travel show and promised myself I'd make it someday when I had time, when no one needed something, when the house was mine again. I lit candles, the good ones, not the clearance jar candles from holidays past, but slender white tapers that made the flatware glow. And I opened a bottle of red wine I'd been saving for, I didn't even know what. Maybe for this. For the first night I chose. By 6 o'clock, they arrived. Claire from the old hospital ward, who once drove me home after a 14-hour shift and stayed to make sure I ate. Mr. Bowman from next door, who snow blows my sidewalk every winter without ever asking for a thank you. Dina, the bookstore clerk, who always asks how I'm really doing and actually listens. 3 others, too, each one not family by blood, but by presence, by kindness, by quiet consistency. We ate around the old dining table I'd once used for sorting laundry and planning Elias's birthday parties. Now it was full of mismatched plates, second helpings, napkin rings I didn't dust off for years. And laughter, real laughter. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was feeding people to prove my worth. I was simply feeding those who had never looked away. He showed up a week later. No call, no warning, just the sound of his car door shutting in the driveway. Then the knock. Not forceful, just firm enough to say, "I'm not leaving until you answer." I opened the door without a word. He looked tired. Not devastated, just inconvenienced. Wrinkled t-shirt hair unwashed, a crease in his brow, like I had made things complicated. "Hi, Mom." I stepped aside. "Let him in." I didn't offer coffee. He walked into the living room and noticed the bare walls immediately. No more graduation photos. No family portraits. No glass-framed memories of the boy I once raised like he hung the moon. "Where are the pictures?" he asked. I didn't answer. He sat down, exhaled, like this was harder for him than it had been for me. "I don't know what happened," he began, voice tight. "One minute everything was fine, and the next you're canceling everything, posting checks online. You embarrassed us. Us. Not me. Not your mother." I walked to the hallway, opened the closet, and returned with the box I'd prepared. Receipts, invoices, the full weight of what he never bothered to see. I placed it on the coffee table. Then beside it, the letter, Michael's letter. The truth he'd never known. Or maybe he had. It didn't matter anymore. Elias glanced between the two. His mouth opened, then closed. "You knew," he said. Finally. I nodded once. "Now I do." He swallowed. "So, you're mad I'm not angry because you're not mine by blood," I cut in. "I'm angry because I was yours in every way that mattered, and when the time came to choose me, you didn't." He looked down. The silence thickened. "You didn't forget me, Elias. You chose not to see me. You sat with strangers, toasted the woman who didn't raise you, let them tuck me behind a swinging door, and you never once looked back." He looked like he wanted to argue. Instead, he said nothing. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. "The receipts are yours now," and I didn't wait for him to step out. I turned away. The table was set again, same cloth, same soft lighting. But this time, something inside me felt settled. I wasn't holding anything back. I wasn't wondering who might not show up or who might walk out. The people who mattered were already here. The smell of garlic and roasted tomatoes drifted from the kitchen. Dina brought a lemon tart. Claire brought music on a tiny Bluetooth speaker, already playing something jazzy and full of warmth. Mr. Bowman arrived early and helped light the candles without needing to be asked. We gathered slowly, each guest placing their phones face down, their attention fully in the room. That alone felt like a kind of reverence. When we sat, I noticed the difference in myself first. My hands didn't shake when I poured the wine. My shoulders didn't hunch when someone complimented the food. I didn't shrink, not even a little. We passed the dishes, laughed about bad dates and worse in-laws, and traded small confessions over glasses of red. And somewhere between the second helping and the shared dessert plates, Claire nudged her glass up toward mine and said, "You should toast us this time." Everyone quieted, faces soft with expectation. I stood. Not for anyone else, not to prove anything, just because I wanted to. I held my glass in one steady hand and said, "To the women who gave everything and were told it still wasn't enough." I paused. No one looked away. "To the ones who were written out of the story after writing every chapter." The clinks were soft but strong. My eyes burned not from grief this time, but from pride. I sat at the head of my own table, my chair, my rules. No one needed to save me a seat. I had built the whole damn room. And as I passed the last bowl across the table, I realized I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for permission, not for love handed down in scraps. I was here, and I wasn't stepping back into the shadows ever again.